Welcome on into the Josh Reese Show. I'm your host, Josh Reese, and today we are talking about Carmelo Anthony going to the Oklahoma City Thunder instead of coming to the Houston Rockets all off-season, I should say. All off-season long, it was rumored that Carmelo Anthony was destined for the streets of Houston, Texas. He was going to be playing off of LaBranch and what is that street next to LaBranch? Whatever it is. He was going to be playing on LaBranch with his buddy, Chris Paul. But in the end, the New York Knicks won. The New York Knicks got Carmelo Anthony to blink, and he waived his no-trade clause to a limited number of teams, and almost instantly after he did that, he was, poof, gone, traded. The Rockets, I don't want to say had no chance at Carmelo Anthony, but it really seemed like there was no chance that Carmelo Anthony was going to be a Houston Rocket, despite all the rumors out there that everyone was linking the Houston Rockets to Carmelo Anthony. Yes, there was interest, but no, the New York Knicks had no interest in doing a deal with the Houston Rockets, despite what anyone out there told you. The 2-yard line deal that we've all heard before, that apparently was a total farce. So let me get into this, guys. This afternoon, as taping, Saturday afternoon, it was reported that Carmelo Anthony was, boom, bam, gone to the Oklahoma City Thunder for Enes Kanter, Dougie Buckets, and a second-round pick, and they're going to take on Carmelo Anthony's contract for this season and next season. ESPN reported the trade. It was reported by a lot of other people, by everyone. But I want to share some stuff from ESPN story, Adrian Wojnarowski. So Anthony, after the mandate was Anthony wanted to be traded by training camp, which is on Monday. Anthony said, or was it Monday or Tuesday? Early next week. Anthony said he wanted to be traded. He wanted to be gone by that time. So the New York Knicks were like, well, we're not going to trade to the Houston Rockets, bro. So you're either going to play for us or you're going to do nothing because we're not sending you to the Houston Rockets. So Carmelo Anthony said, fine. I want to get out of New York so bad. I will open my no trade clause and I will waive it for the Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers per ESPN. That part's per ESPN. The other stuff was me, but ESPN says league sources say that he would waive his no trade clause for Cleveland, the Thunder, and the Houston Rockets. Of course, the New York Knicks have made it known that they're not going to trade for just Ryan Anderson. Also, in Adrian Wojnarowski's story, said New York had been willing to. This is directly from his story. New York had been willing to do an Anthony deal with his preferred choice, Houston, that included Eric Gordon and Trevor REESE, but the Rockets consistently rejected that idea, league sources say. Yes, the Houston Rockets were not going to send off two massive pieces to a championship potential winning team for Carmelo Anthony, who would only slightly improve their chances with those players on the team. Once you trade Eric Gordon and Trevor REESE and you get back Carmelo Anthony, you are worse, not a better team. So that was not going to happen. The deal was always Ryan Anderson for Carmelo Anthony, probably a first-round pick, maybe a second-round pick as well. I doubt the Rockets were going to send more than one first-round pick. I remember earlier in the offseason, who is the Nets GM that used to Sean Marks? Is that it? No, that's a former basketball player. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but he works for he works with Woj, the former Nets GM. It'll come to me later. But anyways, he had said that there were a few teams that he had spoken to that wanted 2 first-round picks just to take Ryan Anderson off of the Rockets' hands. So was that the New York Knicks? Who knows? I doubt the Rockets were going to seriously. I doubt seriously the Rockets are going to part with 2 first-round picks. So here's where we were. So Carmelo Anthony ends up in New York. The one thing I always thought was interesting, and I'll read this part from Woj's story too. Anthony was intrigued by a potential partnership with Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, and Yusuf Nurkic, and the stability and track record of the front office and coaching staff in Portland, but did not want to make a dramatic geographical shift. Now, this is where I have to call BS with Carmelo Anthony. He is going to leave the glitz and glamour of New York effing city, and instead of going to Portland, which is, it's a smaller big city, if that makes sense. It's kind of weird. It's interesting. Very interesting people in there. I don't know if anyone's ever seen Portlandia, but I've been told it's something similar like that. So he's going to leave New York City and go to Oklahoma City, out in the middle of nowhere. That sentence from Woj makes no sense. Oklahoma City is the most dramatical geographic shift anyone can make going from New York City. There's not a worse, I don't want to say worse city. There is not a more dramatic shift from New York than Oklahoma City. Even Dallas has a big city country feel, but Oklahoma, that's a small town. The airport there is, the Oklahoma City airport is tiny. So I don't know if Carmelo Anthony ever really looked much when he was in Oklahoma City playing the Thunder, but yeah, he is massively mistaken about a dramatic geographical shift. What does that even mean? Does he not want to live on the West Coast? I'm not entirely sure. Does he not want to live that close to Canada? I don't know. I just feel that. Plus, he's going from the north to the south. At least if you're in Portland, you're staying kind of in the north. You're used to cold weather or whatever. You're used to that. But he's going to the south. That's a massive geographic shift. But anyways, that's not what I wanted to get off on this podcast today. I just mainly wanted to talk about the deal and how it affects the Houston Rockets. But I felt like we should just kind of backtrack and talk about the deal and how everyone thought it was going to happen, but it's not going to happen. And I want to share that I don't think that this makes the Houston Rockets any worse by not getting Carmelo Anthony. Even if the Rockets just traded Carmelo Anthony for Ryan Anderson, I was always steadfast on the idea that it was not that big of an upgrade, that it was something that the Rockets just had to prioritize. They had to get Carmelo Anthony because he's a massive improvement over Ryan Anderson. In my opinion, he's really not. Carmelo Anthony is a good player. He's a fantastic player, but I just feel on the Houston Rockets that Ryan Anderson fits exactly what the team needs more than what Carmelo Anthony could bring. Ryan Anderson, a spot up 3-point shooter, can hit from deep, can play some decent post defense. He can. I know a lot of people are probably going to laugh when they hear that, but he can. Carmelo Anthony, on the other hand, he is I don't want to say a ball hog because there is points in Carmelo Anthony's career where he hasn't been one. Everyone points to Team USA Carmelo Anthony as the ultimate Carmelo or hoodie Melo, but you're still going to need to treat and kind of, I don't want to say coddle, but coddle Carmelo Anthony in a sort of sense. The Rockets have 2 priorities this season: James Harden, Chris Paul, and everyone around those 2 players are role players. I don't think any of those players would take a slight to that notion that they're a role player. I think they kind of enjoy that. They thrive on having a role in supporting the system that Harden and Chris Paul are going to create. Carmelo Anthony was going to come in, and I found it really difficult to believe that he was going to be a quote unquote role player for 82 games. I found it really, really hard to believe that Carmelo Anthony, a player who has been who's been making 20 plus points a game for his entire career. And this was going to be the first year he was going to start making less than 30 points a game. I found that really difficult to believe. I'm sure it is possible. I have no doubt in that, but once again, it's the kind of, until it happens, it is what it is. You have a track record that says he is not. If you look at, everyone points to the Golden State Warriors as hey, look at they've got Draymond Green, they've got Steph Curry, they've got Kevin Durant, they've got Klay Thompson. They make it work. All those guys are big ball hogs and shooters. Well, it works because one of those guys is taking a lot less for the team. They're not all three shooting 15 shots a game. They're not all shooting massive buckets a game. And it came to the slight of Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson was the one that had to take a step back. So is Melo going to take a massive step back in his career? I always found that really difficult to believe, that this was going to be the 1 year where Melo was going to take a back seat when he's being a front seat driver for his entire career. That was just my thoughts and my opinion on that. So while everyone was really hoping that the Rockets were going to add a big time scorer with Carmelo Anthony, I always felt that unless Melo really bought into playing off the bench for the Houston Rockets, I really didn't feel like there was much value in having Carmelo in the starting lineup for the Rockets. When the Rockets run out their starting lineup, I want James Harden, Chris Paul, and I want a bunch of guys that can shoot and spread the floor. I want Clint Capella running to the rim, and I want Ryan Anderson on the wing and Trevor REESE on the other wing shooting threes. That's what I want. Carmelo Anthony, he clogs up space. I know we all know that, hey, Mike D'Antoni can work magics. He said that Chris Paul can take twos, which is going to help limit space in this offense. But he's also going to be probably having 15 assists a game. So it's not going to be that much of a space cleanse in my opinion. So in the big scheme of things, I think the Rockets kind of dodged a little bit of a bullet. I know the Rockets are star chasing. They want 3 stars to match Golden State's 3 stars, but I really think the Rockets are set up good here. They have 2 stars and they have the right amount of players around those stars to do really good damage. They've got Luke Malamunte. I know I butchered his name. I always butcher his name, but he's a lengthy wing who can play defense. They've got PJ Tucker, a wing, a bulldog, a larger Patrick Beverly who can play defense and hit threes. They've got the right amount of pieces to really do some damage against Golden State this year. I don't know if they were going to beat Golden State, but they weren't going to beat Golden State even with Carmelo Anthony. So I never really understood the drastic need to grab Carmelo Anthony. And luckily, the Houston Rockets knew better of themselves not to hastily try to just get him on the team by shipping off apparently Trevor REESE and Eric Gordon. Luckily, they saw that they needed those players a lot more than Carmelo Anthony, so the deal was not made. Now, I know a lot of people out there are going to be complaining about that now since the trade has happened. This totally screws the Rockets' chances at Team Banana Boat in Houston next year. Let me first tell you that is not true. I think that this deal for Carmelo Anthony moving to the Oklahoma City Thunder, this does nothing but increase the chances of Team Banana Boat here in Houston. Okay, maybe not increase the chances, but I think the chances are still very high. The chances would have been a near lock if he was already here in Houston. But here's 2 things. Oklahoma City next year is either going to be a top 3 seed in the West, or they are going to be a total train wreck, and they are going to be a a massive joke of a team next year. I don't really see it as being a 500 team. I really see it being one way or the other. So if the Rockets are really, really good, that does put a little bit of pressure, and maybe Oklahoma City Thunder think about running it back another year. Who knows? But if the Thunder are a total train wreck, which it could happen, that means they could be looking to dump Carmelo Anthony midway through the season for cheap. That deal that the New York Knicks wanted to do, that might look a little bit more appeasing for the Oklahoma City Thunder if you attach a first-round pick to it. Who knows? But you still could get Carmelo Anthony. You still could find a way to Houston. And he potentially could be here next year, which is what he wanted all along. So even if that doesn't work, and they don't trade for him, and the Oklahoma City Thunder are like a 500 team and they make the playoffs like an 8 seed or whatever, Carmelo Anthony can still opt out of his contract next year and still sign with the Houston Rockets in the summer as a veteran free agent, and still conglomerate all this talent in Houston. The plan still could be made. You still could get LeBron James next year after he walks away from the Cleveland Cavaliers. You still could get D Wade this year if the Denver Nuggets, if the Chicago Bulls buy out Dwayne Wade, which it sounds like they've had interest in doing that. He still could find his way to the Houston Rockets. So you still could be collecting all this talent in Houston, even though you don't get Carmelo Anthony right now. So I do want to end this talking about the Western Conference. Now, the Western Conference in general is going to be a tough week in, week out. It's going to be very, very tough to win games in the Western Conference. The Golden State Warriors are still by far the favorite in the Western Conference. But I do want to say, just because the Oklahoma City Thunder traded and now they have 3 stars, quote unquote, it does not mean that they are now the second best team in the West. The Oklahoma City Thunder were the 6th seed last year. I don't think that they're that much better with Carmelo Anthony on the team. They lost a key piece to their lineup this year in the trade in Enes Kanter. Enes Kanter was their main scorer off the bench. So I'm interested to see how they are going to fill that role. He was a main scorer and a big. So now you're going to ask Steven Anderson to play 40 minutes a game? I doubt that. So it's going to be tough to see. Tough to see how they fill that void. Domantas Sabonis, Dougie Buckets. Yeah, he is what he is. He's a 3-point shooter, but I never really bought into the depth around the Oklahoma City Thunder. They've got 3 good players now. They've got Russ, they've got Paul George, they've got Carmelo Anthony. And aside from that, they have got a lot of potential better than D-League talent. Andre Roberson, great defender, horrible shooter, still horrible shooter. You've got Patrick Patterson, great rebounder, good defensive presence. That's about it. They don't really have that much, guys. If you take a look at the roster, it's slim pickings. So unless you're getting Carmelo Anthony, Russ, and Paul George playing 35 minutes a game, every night, the bench is still going to have to play. And the big problem with the Thunder last year was when they went to the bench. So we'll see if that's something they can figure out this year. I still don't think the Thunder are going to crack the top 4. I think they're probably going to be 5. They could make up a spot 5, depending on how the Timberwolves and the Spurs do. They might be able to crack into the top 4. That's just how I see it. The Rockets are still by far the second best team in the Western Conference. They just did so much this season to help improve their roster. They added defense. They've added size. They have now the length and the speed to match up with the Golden State Warriors. While they do not have the exact same talent as the Golden State Warriors, they are able to match up a lot better with them than they were before. So that's pretty much all I got on this. I appreciate everyone for giving this a listen. If you enjoyed this, please give it a like. Please share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would really appreciate that. And lastly, Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think about the Rockets not getting Carmelo Anthony. Do you think that this is now a death knell for their entire season? That why even play the damn basketball games? It doesn't matter. Carmelo Anthony was going to be the one that brought us over the mountaintop. That's what I would love to hear from you guys. Let me know your thoughts on the Rockets missing out on Carmelo Anthony. I'm sure Daryl Morey has plan B through C through Z all the way, still already working in the works. So it'll be interesting to see what Daryl Morey has up his sleeves. But I think this is going to be the Rockets team that they walk into training camp with. We'll see if it's the team that they leave the trade deadline with. But I think for training camp, you're going to see this team pretty much the same. Don't expect any moves from Daryl Morey in the next couple weeks. I imagine he's a little bit disappointed about what happened with the Oklahoma City Thunder and the New York Knicks. So I imagine he's a little bit heartbroken, but after he gets over his heartbrokenness, he's going to be back to being the same boss GM he always has been. So that's it, guys. This has been the Josh Reese Show. Thank you all for giving this a listen, and we will talk to you later.